Did you know that the art of living with less to have more peace, more space, more beauty has been practiced by Japanese women for generations? And what if I told you there is a path even deeper than asking if something brings you joy? A path that my aunts in Japan still follow today, without ever having read a single book on organization. Because for them, this is not a method, it is education. I grew up watching my grandmother Akiko organize the house as if practicing a ceremony. Every gesture had a purpose, every object, a place. Nothing was thrown in a drawer, nothing was forgotten in a corner. And the most impressive thing, she had so little, but lived so well. When I went to live in Japan, in Kyoto, I realized that was not just her. It was all the women around me. They did not accumulate. They did not compete over who had more. And yet, their homes breathed elegance. Therefore, I learned that living with less is not sacrifice. It is conscious choice. But for this to work, you need to follow some rules that go far beyond cleaning closets. These rules connect with ancient philosophical principles that transform not only your home, but your way of being in the world. Before we continue, if you want to cultivate a lighter and more elegant life with less excess and more intention, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave your like. This space is for those who value what is essential and seek beauty in simplicity. The first rule is the most difficult of all, and the most important: keep only what has function or beauty. In Japan, you learn from an early age that everything needs to have a purpose. If it does not serve something practical, it needs to be beautiful. If it is not beautiful, it needs to be useful. And if it is neither one nor the other, it has no place in your home. Period. This principle connects deeply with the concept of kanso, which in Japanese means refined simplicity. It is not about being poor in resources. It is about being rich in intention. Every object you keep needs to justify its existence. And this justification cannot be vague. It cannot be a maybe. It needs to be a clear and true yes. This was the rule that cost me the most to follow, because I had objects that were not useful, were not beautiful, but had history, gifts I received and never liked, memories that carried heavy weight, things I kept out of obligation, not love. But then I realized something fundamental. Memory does not live in objects. Memory lives in you, and you do not need a pile of clutter to honor what you lived. In Japan, there is an art called kintsugi. When a ceramic bowl breaks, instead of throwing it away, the Japanese repair it with gold. The cracks are not hidden, they are celebrated, because that piece gained history, gained character. It became more beautiful precisely because it was broken and rebuilt. This is what we call wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection, in what is incomplete, in what carries marks of time. But here is the secret. You do not need to keep all the broken pieces of your life. Only those that, even with their cracks, are still beautiful, still serve, still make you feel something true when you look at them. The rest can go away with gratitude. When my son Kenji entered university, he wanted to take everything to his apartment. Childhood books, old toys, team jerseys he had never worn. He thought he needed all that to feel safe, to feel at home. But I told him what my grandmother told me when I returned from Japan. Home is not where your things are. Home is where you are at peace. So I helped Kenji select only the essential, only what had function or beauty. And you know what happened? He created a space that was truly his, not a storage of the past, but a place of the present. And he told me months later that he had never felt so free, because he was not carrying weight. He was living with lightness. This rule, function or beauty, is also an exercise in brutal honesty, because it forces you to look at each object and ask, does this serve? Does this delight me? And if the answer is no to both, you already know what to do. There is no middle ground. There is no maybe one day. There is no just in case I need it. If it does not serve now, it will not serve later. And if you do not find it beautiful today, you will not find it beautiful tomorrow. I know a woman here in Los Angeles who kept clothes for when she would lose weight. She kept them for 8 years. 8. The entire closet was a constant reminder that she was not in the body she desired. Therefore, every time she opened that closet, she felt bad. because those clothes did not fit, and she did not feel beautiful in there either. When she finally donated everything, she lost nothing. She gained space, gained air, gained the possibility to dress as she was, not as she wished to be. And here I need to tell you something I observed during the years I lived in Japan. Japanese women do not change shoes every day. They have few pairs, usually between 3 and 5, and use each one until the end of its useful life. Only then do they buy another. The same goes for bags, coats, umbrellas. It is not for lack of money. It is from excess clarity. Because when you know who you are, you do not need 30 versions of yourself in the closet. Therefore, keeping only what has function or beauty is, in fact, keeping only what respects you in the present. And this applies to everything: clothes, books, dishes, furniture, relationships. Yes, relationships too, because you do not need to keep people in your life just because they were there one day. If there is no function, that is reciprocity, care, presence, and if there is no beauty, that is joy, lightness, admiration, then there is no reason to keep. And this is not coldness. It is wisdom. The second rule is this: give thanks before discarding. Here in America, we throw things away in a hurry, with anger sometimes, as if they had betrayed us. But in Japan, you learn to give thanks. Even if the object is broken, even if you do not like it anymore, even if it never fulfilled its function, you give thanks. And this gratitude transforms detachment into something light. There is no guilt. There is no weight. There is recognition. This principle comes from the concept of mottainai, a Japanese word that has no exact translation, but expresses a deep sense of reverence for objects and what they represent. It is a kind of preventive gratitude. It is not wasting. It is honoring what you have while you have it. And when you no longer have it, honoring what you had. My mother had a closet that looked like a department store. Clothes with tags, bags stored in boxes, shoes wrapped in tissue paper. Everything new, everything untouched. She said she was saving for special occasions, but the occasions never came, because she was too busy accumulating. Therefore, she lived surrounded by things she did not use, waiting for a future that never began. It was only after 2012, when she finally realized that life was passing by, that she began to use what she had, to open the boxes, to wear the clothes, to actually live. But before that, she needed to learn to give thanks and let go. And that changed everything. I taught her what my grandmother taught me. Take the object in your hands, give thanks for what it represented, and let it go, not as punishment, but as liberation. My grandmother had a ritual I never forgot. Before discarding any object, she would hold it in her hands, close her eyes, and say softly, "Thank you for having fulfilled your role. Thank you for having been here. Now you can continue on your way." I found that strange when I was a child. Today, I practice exactly the same, because I understood that was not superstition. It was respect. This practice is not sentimentalism. It is respect. Respect for what you had. Respect for what you lived. And mainly, respect for yourself, who deserves to live without the weight of the past accumulated in the form of clutter. When you give thanks, you close cycles. And when you close cycles, you open space for the new. But here is the point that many people forget. Giving thanks does not mean keeping. You can be grateful for something and still get rid of it, because gratitude and detachment are not opposites. They are allies. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. Therefore, giving thanks before discarding is not an empty ritual. It is a gesture of honor. Honor with the object, honor with yourself. I remember a client I worked with a few years ago. She had a beautiful house in Santa Monica, decorated with impeccable taste, but she lived unhappy. When I started working with her, I discovered that half the objects in the house were wedding gifts from a marriage that had ended 5 years earlier. She kept everything out of guilt, because she thought she needed to honor those who had given. But in reality, she was imprisoned by the past. When she finally thanked each piece and donated what no longer made sense, she called me crying, but not from sadness, from relief. She said she felt as if she had removed a physical weight from her back, and she had, because every object you keep without true reason demands something from you. It demands space, energy, attention, and when you release that, you release yourself. The third rule is simple but revolutionary. One object only enters if another leaves. In Japan, homes are small. There is no room for excess. So, from an early age, you learn that everything that enters your life needs to be justified. And to justify, something needs to leave. This happened to me when I returned from Japan. I had only 2 suitcases. Everything I owned fit there. And you know what I learned? That I did not need anything more. Of course, over the years, I bought some things, but never without first asking myself, what will I remove to make room for this? This question completely changed my relationship with consumption, because it forced me to look at what I already had before looking at what I wanted, and most of the time, I realized I wanted nothing, or that what I wanted was not worth the sacrifice of getting rid of something I already loved. This practice, which in Japan we call danshari, refusal, disposal, and detachment, is not about deprivation. It is about curation. It is about respecting the space you inhabit. It is about not turning your home into a warehouse of poorly made decisions. When you apply this rule, something magical happens. You stop buying on impulse. Stop keeping things just in case. Stop clinging to what no longer has purpose, and begin to live with what really matters. Danshari is based on 3 very clear actions. The first is Dan, which means refuse. Refuse what does not need to enter. Refuse advertising. Refuse social pressure. Refuse automatic consumption. The second is Sha, which means discard. Release what no longer serves. And the third is Rai, which means detach. Emotionally detach from what no longer has purpose. These 3 actions, together, create freedom. I know a woman who had 23 pairs of black shoes. 23. She told me, proudly, that she loved shoes. But when I asked how many she actually used, the answer was 5. The others were there, cluttered, taking up space, accumulating dust, and more importantly, taking up mental space. Because every time she opened the closet, she saw those shoes and felt guilt. Guilt for having bought too much. Guilt for not using them. Guilt for not having the courage to discard. When she finally got rid of the 18 pairs she did not use, something curious happened. She felt she had more shoes than before. Because now she saw what she had. Because now everything was accessible. Because now there was no more visual noise. Therefore, less can seem like more when you remove what does not serve. In Japan, there is a concept called ma. It has no direct translation, but it means empty space. It is not absence. It is presence. It is the silence between musical notes. It is the air between objects. It is the breath that makes everything more beautiful. When you apply the rule of 1 in, 1 out, you are creating ma. You are creating space to breathe, to think, to live. And living with ma is understanding that emptiness is not lack. It is possibility. It is openness. It is an invitation for life to happen without you needing to fill every inch with things. Because the best things in life, peace, clarity, creativity, connection, need space to exist. And if your home is cluttered, there is no space for them. These 3 rules: keep only what has function or beauty, give thanks before discarding, 1 in, 1 out, are not organization tricks. They are life principles. And when you follow them, something transforms, not only in your home, but inside you. After applying these practices in my own life, I realized I did not just have fewer objects. I had less noise, less guilt, less hurry, and more clarity, more space, more time for what really mattered. Because every object you keep demands something from you: physical space, mental energy, cleaning time, constant decision. Therefore, when you reduce, you free yourself. Today, I have few pieces of jewelry, each one with meaning. A ring that belonged to my grandmother, a necklace my grandfather brought from Japan, earrings I bought in Kyoto the day I decided to return to America. Each piece tells a true story. I am not surrounded by costume jewelry I bought because it was on sale. I am surrounded by memories I chose to honor. I have few pairs of shoes, each one with purpose: 1 pair for walking, 1 for work, 1 for formal occasions, 1 for rainy days, one for being at home. And you know what else? I never felt limited. On the contrary, I feel free. Because I do not need to decide between 30 options every morning. Because I know exactly what each pair means. Because every choice is simple. I have a streamlined wardrobe with pieces that combine with each other and make me feel elegant every day. It is not rigidity. It is clarity. It is knowing who I am and dressing accordingly. It is not having a different identity for each season or each mood. It is having a style that is mine, that represents me, that respects me. And you know what else? I have never felt so rich. Because wealth, I learned, is not having much. It is needing little. It is waking up and knowing that everything you have, you love. It is opening the closet and not feeling guilt. It is looking at your home and seeing peace. It is living without the weight of excess. These rules that Japanese women follow are not about living in empty houses. They are about living in intentional houses, where each object was chosen, where each corner breathes, where you do not need to search for anything, because everything is in the right place, and where you do not feel weight when you arrive, but lightness. There is a Japanese proverb that says, "The home is the mirror of the soul. If your home is chaotic, your soul is chaotic. If your home is cluttered, your soul is overloaded. If your home is clean, serene, organized, your soul is too." It is not superstition. It is observation. It is recognizing that the external always reflects the internal, and that if you want peace inside you, you need to start creating peace around you. If you made it this far, I would like to extend an invitation. Take one room in your home today, just one, and apply these 3 rules. Ask yourself, what has neither function nor beauty and is still taking up space? What can you thank and discard? What needs to leave for something new to enter? Do this calmly, with respect, with intention, and observe how you feel afterward. Because living with less and better is not about rigidity. It is about freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to breathe. Freedom to live without the weight of what no longer serves. And that, believe me, is true luxury. The silent luxury of those who know what they want, and what they no longer want. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about how to live with intention, elegance, and lightness, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every piece of content here is designed to help you cultivate a more serene, more beautiful life that is truly yours. And now, tell me, which of these 3 rules will you start applying today? Write in the comments. I read them all. And if you felt this content touched you in some way, also leave the phrase "less is more" so I know you are with me on this journey. Living with less and better is not giving up. It is choosing wisely. It is valuing what is essential. It is respecting your space, your time, and especially yourself. Because in the end, it is not things that complete us. It is the peace we feel when we stop accumulating and finally begin to live. A serene embrace. And until the next video.